I just got an epiphany on why One Piece power scaling can be so chaotic, strange, inconsistent, even. It's like any fighting league at a certain level. Obviously, you have to be on a certain level where it becomes like, when you watch an MMA fight, you don't know who's going to beat who. And if these people fight twice, is it the same person that's going to win twice? It depends who's in what condition. And sometimes both of them at their best, it can still end up different if they have 5 fights with both of them at their best. I don't know. That's the thing. There's different stats. It's art. It's civil play. I like the inconsistency. I like watching people put agenda. I love watching them argue about power scaling, thinking that this is a set topic. No, it's not a set topic. Nuh-uh. We don't even know how strong NL is. He just happened to go up against a guy who was immune to his nonsense. This guy's observation arc was so strong that somebody stepped into his land and he sensed this guy. Meanwhile, Sabo was there sneaking into the flower room and Imu couldn't tell. Probably because he wasn't even using observation because he thinks he's so safe. Is NL paranoid? NL, we can't really scale him. We actually can't when you think about it. He was just torturing people until Luffy. And then you get Kaido, the quintessential. The hell is this word? The quintessential peak of power. Ever since Kaido, you would call what we see in power creep, but is it really? Luffy had to become unalived and get rebooted into like a whole god figure to beat this guy. And ever since then, the only thing that's been beating Luffy is stamina. Clearly, Kaido was the peak. I mean, look at the God Knights. We expected so much from them, but when you think about it, if they all existed, would it take people like Kaido and Big Mom and 4 Yonkos to keep the scene balanced? Would they still need to hire 7 warlords? And you see how they're treating the God Knights. They just dismember them and lock up their limbs somewhere and stuff, and these guys can't do anything. And then you get the elders. Luffy's having quite some fun with them. Obviously, they're doing some, I don't know, they're tiring him out. The only challenge is the regeneration. And then came Emo. Emo is clearly on a different level, different scale, and everyone knows. That's the thing. We just know. How is that a power creep? I think it's normal. It's normal for what's happening now to be happening. Then you get Crocodile. Biggest inconsistency there. This guy is getting beaten by Water Luffy, and now he has this kind of bounty. Where did this bounty come from? What's going on? Did he just learn Haki in prison or something? I'm sure he had Haki, but then has Luffy been not fighting with Haki the whole time when you think about it? What did Blackbeard say when they first met? Somebody with your will can't have that bounty. Clearly it was Haki, but we just didn't know about Haki at the time. That's probably why we got that translation or whatever. Somebody with your Haki. So he's probably fighting with Haki, just not consciously, not using it against elemental people, Loja people, the way he has to. But then he did find a way with Water Luffy, the peak form of Luffy. And it does also make you wonder about the whole One Piece ending with Crocodile, the Alabasta thing, with that being the peak of One Piece. And with everything we're seeing now, we're just gonna live life without seeing all of this. I don't know. Hey, yeah, people like Arlong being beaten so early by Luffy. Has Luffy really been getting stronger? Or has he just been fighting people in his weight class the whole time, winning against some, losing against others, finding a way to beat them, seeing what to do until Lucci? See, that's the first level up that happened. Lucci, that's when Gear 2 and 3 came. And then the next one is at Marineford, where Haki becomes a thing. Has he been getting stronger there or just been refining his knowledge of Haki? It's not like he invented Snake Man specifically for Katakuri. He had it. He just needed it for Katakuri. That's it. That's One Piece. Luffy hasn't been just getting stronger. He's just been refining Haki, being more effective, training. And then when he shifts a weight class, you see the strength change. When he got to Gear 5, that's a new weight class now. Because now it's Kaido's class. Those are the monsters. And now everyone is fighting in that class. It's a fight. And we don't know what the outcome is until it happens. And then you get people like Shanks. I think Shanks is in Kaido's weight class. Some would say he's in a whole different other weight class because his Haki is so strong. We one-shotted Kid. Kid is an idiot. That's the thing. Kid is strong too. He's close to that weight class. I mean, he has to team up to beat Big Mom. He's close, but he's also just not smart. He didn't go in properly. He wasn't using observation. He tried to surprise attack Shanks and got speed blitzed. Is that not a logical thing? Like, imagine if somebody from you've been training for 20 years in Muay Thai, some dude comes and talks smack, and then he comes and bum rushes you without even thinking about it. Obviously, you're gonna knock him out in one shot if you know what you're doing. That makes sense for the level Kid was at. If you're not defending yourself, you get punched in the face. and then if you get punched in the face, you get knocked out. Does that mean you're weak? Or does it just mean that you didn't block, you didn't dodge? I'm not saying I respect Kid. That's the last thing I'm saying. I'm calling him a genuine idiot. I think he could have put up a fight for at least 10 seconds. Instead, he got 10 milliseconds because he was an idiot. Barely saw it coming. It just happened. From a mile away, this guy went from one ship, jumping across. Did put some respect on Shanks, and also put some respect on Oda and One Piece power scaling. This is another reminder for you to glaze Oda. This guy is a genius. But to really drive my point home on what I'm trying to say about One Piece power scaling is that Sentomaru is a threat. This dude is an egghead pulling his weight. And do we think in our heads that this guy is stronger than Kid, who got one shot? Do we think that him and Law, or him and Kid as a duo, either duo, would beat Big Mom? See, what happened with Big Mom was so specific. Why was it specific? They're not stronger. They're not even in that weight class. Straight up, they're just not in that weight class. They didn't make that jump to the next level that Luffy did to be one of Kaido and Ko, to be in that monsters category. They were still in the Gear 4, Doflamingo and Ko category. And yes, I'm saying Doflamingo and Cat, that's one category, right? We can call them the legends or something, and then we got monsters. So before that, before the Gear 4 stuff, see Gear 3 and 2, that would be the Rob Lucci stuff. That was one step, Before that, the Arlongs and all, and Crocodile. I don't know, Crocodile is now in two places. And Crocodile, that's one Gear 1 Luffy, regular Luffy. And then you level up to Gear 2 and 3, the Rob Luccis and Gecko Moria, I guess. Put some respect on him, I guess. And then the next class is Doflamingo, Katakuri. That would be A tier, I check. So we went from C tier to B tier to like A tier. And then Kaido and them is S tier. So S tier, S plus, S class heroes. Those guys, you're not just going to measure them. You're not going to put a number on them, And then A class would be where Law and Kid are. And I think Sentomaru is either A class or B class. It takes multiple of them to challenge people in other classes. Multiple A's can take that an S, as we saw Law and Kid do to Big Mom. I think that's how power works in One Piece. It's not going to be the same outcome every time, and certain conditions can make certain upsets happen. Upsets do happen in fights. One Piece is just that realistic, eh? I said this once and I'll say it again. You need to glaze Oda because this is very real. This is very realistic. Can talk about this all day. One Piece is basically our very own fictional MMA league. That's what we are watching when we see these fights. I think Dragon Ball put something in our heads that we're not gonna get out, and that's numbers. We will never get those things out of our head. So now we will always expect a new transformation to be the solution to the problem. When sometimes this guy is using fire and I just need to use water. So stop thinking of power scaling as in who is stronger. Obviously, we love those conversations. My favorite conversation to have is who's stronger between this guy and that guy. I think it's the greatest conversation to have of like all time in terms of fiction. But with One Piece, there's a lot more factors. It's way more complex than just who is stronger. People think Loki is the most powerful person in all because he has all of this nepotism going through him. The Nepo piece baby, the great ancient giant with the Nidhogg fruits and affinity for the fruit, and now he also has this hammer that's all you know what they say about Loki. I say he just has the affinity. They're calling him strong for being able to stand up to Emu. No, he's just built to do that. Same as Luffy. He's not being taken over because he's got that fruit. It's an affinity thing. It's not a strength thing at that point. If he had any other fruit, if either of them had any other fruit, I do believe they would have been dummy reversed. Actually, wait. Our latest chapter said something about them not wanting power being the reason why they can't get corrupted like that. Maybe that has to do with it. Maybe it's their personality. Doesn't change the point that it's an affinity thing. It's not a strength thing that makes them not be taken over. It's not a strength thing that's the reason Loki can put the hurts on Emu. Emu got you bleeding, bruh. Emu has been regenerating from everything. But now that this person has the specific thing designed to beat Emu, you're calling him strong. If you haven't heard, my agenda is that Loki is gonna kick the bucket and Emu is gonna be the one to end him. That is my agenda. I genuinely want it to happen. I hope you do too. No, this whole power scaling conversation wasn't just so that I can push my agenda. Some of it. It's just to express. Don't take power scaling as the Bible, as this is what happens when this person and this person clash. Power scaling is for fun. We're just having fun with it. Relax. Because there's people who genuinely get offended if somebody says Shanks is stronger than Mihawk. I mean, obviously Mihawk is stronger than Shanks, but there's no reason to get offended by people who think otherwise. That's being suggested by Oda, saying these guys are so strong, they were each other's rivals. Under certain circumstances, Shanks would beat Mihawk and Mihawk would beat Shanks. If you've had a rival in your life, it goes back and forth. Yeah, who would have guessed? People fighting multiple times, it doesn't always end the same way. Especially when they're rivals, equals, stay in the same weight class. There will be times where Zoro, by the skin of a tooth or margin of a hair, will beat Sanji, and then there will be times where Sanji just wipes this guy out. That's how it works with rivals. You know what I'm saying?